The time I was maliciously complied against. New car story. I was just recently graduated from university and was about to purchase my first new car. This would be in the 90s. The era of haggling down the price of a new car had recently ended. But I decided to try my luck anyway. We had picked the make and model of car that we wanted, highly influenced by a $5,000 rebate that recent university graduates were eligible for. I decided to try to haggle down the price. The dealer wouldn't budge, saying that it was handed down from the gods themselves that they could not sell a car for anything other than the MSRP. No more and no less. I took this as a challenge. When presented with the paperwork, I went over it with a fine-tooth comb. Eventually I spotted it. There was a charge of $150 for pinstriping. The dealer explained that this was a paint stripe down the side of the car. Determined to get a deal, I pounced. I argued that I had never asked for pinstriping to be applied, so I should not be charged for it. The dealer stated that I was being charged for it because this was the last car of this model with the options I wanted on the lot, and that the pinstriping had been applied already from the manufacturer. I went full Karen mode, accusing them of adding on this charge to try and get extra money from me, adding on a feature that I hadn't asked for to bilk me out of my hard-earned money. We went back and forth until finally I got the dealer to remove the pinstriping charge. Heady with my victory, the dealer showed me the car, which indeed had a thin green stripe down the side, and said that it would be ready to be picked up tomorrow. I arrived the next day, ready to pick up my new car. They drove it out to me and the green stripe was gone. The dealer explained that since I wasn't willing to pay for the pinstriping, they had taken the car into the garage overnight, had the paint sanded down to remove the pinstriping, and repainted the car. Therefore, I wasn't being forced to pay for something that clearly I didn't want. I thought to myself that the cost of doing this, paying a mechanic to sand down and repaint a car overnight, probably being paid overtime, would have far exceeded the paltry $150. But if I wasn't willing to pay for the pinstriping, then by God, that dealer made sure that I wasn't going to get the pinstriping. I bought a new car in the 90s. It was a green Jeep with a bright red stripe. I asked if they had one without it. They said they could remove it in 5 minutes. It was just tape. They heated it up and pulled it off. No repainting involved. Sounds like the dealer was still lying to you. It was a decal, heat gun, and 20 minutes it's gone. Manufacturer doesn't paint on pinstripes. I've sanded cars to repaint. I find this hard to believe someone paid for an overnight or rushed job for this, especially as car dealerships won't do something that costs them this much money. If it had been me, I would have smiled and gone, "Good. You saved me the trouble of having to pay someone to get rid of that hideous thing. Thanks." Nothing deflates petty like them finding out they just did you a solid, even if they likely lied to you, as no manufacturer paints a pattern on their cars like that. Peeled off the pinstripe decal likely. The first car I purchased had a pinstripe applied, and with it came a $395 charge. It was a ridiculous cost. I argued the exact same thing as you. I don't care who applied it. I'm not paying $400 for a sticker. It may not have been the dealer's fault, but I'll be goddamned if I pay for that. They eventually caved. I'm calling BS. Cars don't get sanded overnight and repainted. Possibly the pinstripe was an applied decal, as many are. That was removed, but sanding a new car and painting it would cost thousands and not worth the $150 for the dealer. Further paint is a multiple stage process that includes a clear coat. Overnight is unlikely. You couldn't negotiate the price of a car in the 90s? News to me. And I bought more than one car in that decade. Most new car dealers get the car without the pinstripe and have an employee add them because that's $10 and they can add it on to the features list at $200. Tell them to take it off your bill. If they remove it physically as well, say, "Thanks. Just ordered a slightly thinner one from eBay. 7.99. Should be here tomorrow. Glad I don't have to heat gun the old one off." A heat gun can remove those in a few minutes. We did that quickly in our auto shop. Not sure why you think haggling ended in the 90s. I bought a car 2 years ago and haggling was definitely part of the process. Dude, by the 90s pinstriping hadn't been painted on cars by the manufacturer for at least 20 years. They were and still are vinyl stips applied with heat to melt the weatherproof adhesive on the back. They are easily removed by reheating them and simply peeling them off. It takes like 5 minutes with absolutely no sanding or painting involved. Sanding down and properly painting a car, even a small section, takes a lot more than a few hours because a primer has to be applied, sanded, possibly reapplied, then painted, then sanded before a second coat is applied, then the paint has to cure, then gets wet sanded a couple times before the clear coat can be applied, and then that has to cure before it can be wet sanded, usually several times, and then goes through several stages of buffing to achieve a sparkling shine. Not to mention that it is highly unlikely that the dealership would have that exact color of paint on the shelf in the parts department, and it would have to be ordered from the manufacturer because that particular year, make and model are brand spankin' new. Therefore, the formula would not yet be available aftermarket at the local parts store, and it would take at least a week to be delivered from the manufacturer. Labor, paint and materials would cost at least 3/4 of the value of the new car. No dealership is going to put that much extra money into a vehicle just to remove some pinstriping, and would have told you to pound sand, especially if you had insisted they repaint the entire car after they told you the pinstripes were vinyl stips and could be easily removed. And after you admitting to have gone full Karen on them. I'd imagine this is close to what actually happened, unless you either made up part of your story or are extremely gullible. Just saying. I wouldn't have taken delivery of the car. Now you're buying a car that's been repainted? Absolutely not. If instead the pinstripe was just an adhesive, then no. They didn't repaint anything. They just pulled the strips off. Oh, so now this is no longer a new car? Okay, I want $2,000 off. Dude, they gave you a completely different car. You believe they sanded down a car just for the pinstripe? I work in an upscale Cadillac dealership. That pinstripe can be removed in a parking lot in under 5 minutes by a salesman. I've removed them myself. No mechanic touched your car. It wasn't sanded and repainted. And if it was, you should have refused delivery, and that counts as body damage in the title. And you didn't come out ahead. Get maliciously complied against lol. Thanks, but I am paying for a factory paint job. See ya. Cost him dollars due to pennies. I would have refused it if it was altered by them repainting it. Sure would have gone Karen then.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Aircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.